Hey, hello friends, welcome back to my channel, A Little Geek, A Little Chic. Coming at you with another video to talk to you about my books I would like to read in 2022. So I have 22 books that are my top want to get tos for 2022, and I'm looking at them on the floor right now, and I am super intimidated by the stack and the size of some of these books, but I'm gonna put my fears of big books aside because there are some I want to get to, and they're big books, but they're supposed to be big stories with great potential, and I am enthralled. So I want to get to them and put my fear aside, but will I? I don't know. That's to be seen. So without further ado, let's get into talking about these 22 books that I want to read in 2022. And then by the end of the year, we'll see if I finish that. So grab yourself your beverage of choice and make it a big one, because we's going to be here a little while. I'm going to put down my coffee because I'm going to need both hands for dealing with this. I've separated these stacks into some piles around me, and we'll just start going pile to pile. So I'll start first with the romancy kind of pile because it's kind of small. I'm going to put my coffee down. I got to grab the books. I have the romance books. I'm not sure the first one if it's a romance or not. It is a YA fiction. Might have some romance in it, but it's more family, contemporary, I think. And I haven't read it yet because I hear it's tear-jerking, but it's also amazing, and I'm here for it. That is Robin Benway's Far From the Tree. It's been on my shelf for quite some time, and I have yet to read it. Apparently it gives major This Is Us vibes, so like it sounds like there's a separated family and people potentially finding each other. I don't know too much about it, but I know everyone I've heard who has liked this, read this book, loved it, so I have it. I just have to be in the right mindset to want to have a tear-jerking book experience, and I think I'm almost there. So, plus, let's look at this cover. It's absolutely stunning. Right? So, this is number one. I'm going to try not to talk too much about each book because we'll be here literally forever. The next book is The X Talk. So it's two rival radio talk show hosts who I believe did not have any kind of relationship, but they kind of put them on a podcast or a radio show together to talk relationship advice and kind of act like they had a relationship or have a relationship. So that's what I know about this one. So big fan of the workplace romance books. I just think this is going to be great. Heard good things about it. And she also, Rachel Lynn Solomon, has another book coming out this year. I think it's called Weather Girl. I'm not sure. It's about two people who work together who are trying to hook up their bosses. And so I'm excited to get that one. So at first I have to read this one. So this one I hopefully will read in February. The next up I talked about in my previous video, and I am so excited. And it's The Love Hypothesis, about two scientists that work together in a lab and maybe develop feelings, obviously, for one another. And I'm very excited about this. Like I said, Office Place romance books, I do really, really like them. Ever since The Hating Game. The Hating Game started me on the train of office romancy kind of books that I really enjoyed. Okay, second up, do I tackle the huge stack? Let's tackle the huge stack. One moment, please. Oh my goodness. Let me situate myself better in the chair for this. Okay. First on the top of the stack is the book I'm currently reading, and that is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. I've talked about this a number of times on the channel. Definitely a huge, hilarious book so far about a band of mercenaries called Saga who are no longer together. They're all old. They kind of do their own thing now. They have different jobs. They, losing the stack. They maybe drink too much, some of them, and they have to get back together to do one last big quest to save one of their children who has gone missing or might be in distress. So, great book. Hilarious book. Cannot wait to continue this. I will be reading some more today because I'm just loving these characters. This is great. This is a great way to get into fantasy. For someone like me who's scared of big books, it's a big book. Adding some comedy and me not having to flip back and forth to the map all the time, because that's the most intimidating part of fantasy for me. But I do have a lot of fantasy on my list this year, so hopefully this gets me right in the fantasy mindset, because the winter that goes on forever really makes you want to read fantasy. Second book is the sequel to that book, Bloody Rose, which I got for Christmas from my wonderful husband. I know nothing about this, and I don't want to read the back or anything because spoilers for the book I'm currently reading, but it is the second part by Nicholas Eames, again, to the Kings of the Wild book. So we will hopefully get to that one also. Like I said, some big books. The next book on my list of books I want to read in 2022, 22 books in 2022. I'm a mood reader, so hopefully getting to all these. That's why I picked so many different genres, because I don't know what I'm going to want. Hopefully I get to all these, but I'm a mood reader, you guys, so let's just see if I can stick to this or not. Is Vicious, another book my husband got me for Christmas by V.E. Schwab. Want to read this so bad. It's about two college roommates, co-eds, who develop / find the secret for developing extreme different powers that you don't have as a human by near-death experiences, and things go awry and they're no longer friends by the time we get to the book starting. So that seems interesting, and I'm excited to read about what's going on there. Victoria Schwab is one of my favorite authors because of her Gathering of Shadows series. No. What's the first book in the series called? Darker Shade of Magic series. Thank you. Gathering of Shadows is also, surprise, surprise, on my TBR for the 22 books I want to read in 2022. It is the second book to the series. I read the first one, clearly loved it. Heard the second one's a little slower and then the third one picks up and is great, but I don't know. I want to read this now before I forget all about the first one. It is also a chunkier book. These fantasy books are making me so nervous because there's so many pages, but this is another one that's on my list. Love her as an author. Very excited to get to this. Okay. Let's talk about The Elephant in the Room, shall we? Another Victoria Schwab book that I have not read yet. So this is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. She has 3 books on my books I want to get to in 2022, but I do really want to read this one. It's about Addie LaRue, a young lady who trades for eternity, like eternal life, with a Reaper type character. And in order to get eternal life, she gives up something. And what it is she gives up the ability that people remember her. So she'll be somewhere talking to people, having a great time, leave the room, come back, and they won't even know they've ever met her or that she existed. So it's a long, eternal life, but it is very lonely. Very excited to get to this, until one day she apparently walks into a shop and someone there knows who she is. Which, right? Very excited to get to this. My friend came over at Bookshelf Bunny, read this last year, I think, and I think she enjoyed it. I don't know. I didn't really ask her. So I should probably do that, but it's just so nice. I just love the inside of this cover. It's just got the green with the stars, and there goes the book. And we have a bunch of birds on the front. I don't think you can see that, but that is a book I want to get to. So add that to the list of, there should be V.E. Schwab books I want to read in 2022. Let me pick up the one that I dropped, because it is also a big book. This one might be an audiobook read for me, as I do have it on hold from my local library. And it is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. So this is book number 1 in the Wheel of Time series. This is a pocket paperback, you guys. And it is 800 pages, 814 pages. But it has been well loved. The spine has been broken many times. It is taped together. And so, I don't know, it's got a great story. It's gone around to everybody and their dog. My aunt gave me this as the set. She gave me the whole set of the Wheel of Time series, because I had mentioned wanting to read Brandon Sanderson, because I'd heard such good things about Brandon Sanderson. Spoiler alert, there's one on the 22 books list here. So she sent me all of these, because she had them. She was done with them. And they're all these lovely little Tor Bass paperbacks. And I just love the imagery on them. Obviously, the big book's not the best for reading, you do have to correct spine on these. There's like no other way to read these. So I'm happy someone else has already done that for me. And looking forward to getting into these. Like I said, this one might be an audiobook for my local library very soon. Maybe starting that this week. But I don't want to get too many fantasies going at once. So I don't want to confuse my brain Kings of the Wild and any characters to do with this one. So I don't know. If you read multiple fantasy books at once, let me know. If not, and you let me know if you stick to like one or the other. Have you ever gotten like confused with characters, and like what do you recommend? I am very new. Like I'm not a new fantasy reader, but I'm very green to fantasy reading. I'm like, oh, I want to pick up both of these. But then my brain says maybe don't, so you can decipher which is which. The next book, we'll get to the Brandon Sanderson one that's on the list. Tried to read this a few times. Love the concept, but it's never just been the right time to read it. I know I'm going to love it when I read it. I just have to stick to reading it, and I know I'm going to love it, but like I said, it seems like every time I pick it up, I get distracted and something else grabs my attention. And that is Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Again, lovely mass market paperback. I think that I just really like this cover because I love purple. In case you guys didn't know, purple is like my vibe. It's my favorite color. I have purple chairs in my reading room with like pink pillow on them, and I just love it. Purples and golds, and this is like purple, and it's like metallic on the writing, and just it's just everything to me. This is great. I can't wait to read this one, and I've heard from numerous sources that I am going to love this because this is the best of his works to get into. Pardon me. If you're new to Brandon Sanderson, you're supposed to pick up Mistborn because it'll help you get into his writing style without being too detailed and world building focused that you can't stay on track and you don't get lost. So I'm hoping that this is correct because I also have Way of Kings to read by Brandon Sanderson, but I want to try this one first and make sure I can get into his writing style, and I really like it, which I'm sure I will. And lastly on the fantasy book is a middle grade fantasy. So it probably won't take me very long to read, but it's still a big book. And I've heard nothing but good things about it, you guys, and I am so excited to pick up book one. There is like, I don't even know how many books there are in this series now. I'm looking at the back of this and I'm seeing 8, but I think there's more than that now. But I guess I just have to check into that once I get in further into the series. And that is Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger, and it's kind of like magic school-esque vibes, and I've heard nothing but great things about it. It's a big book for a middle grade, so FYI, if you have a kid that's really into reading, and maybe Harry Potter's already done, or they're looking for something else that kind of fits that vibe, this is what I've heard. So I've heard nothing but great things about this book. I'm going to pick this one up this year for sure. The next pile we're going to get into is my literary fiction and just like fiction, kind of adult books that don't really fit those genres. So my miscellaneous pile. So one moment, please. Okay. You ready? I've got a book on here that makes me laugh because this year I'm going to read a book by this author. Even though I have a little shrine set up to this author, I have watched movies made by this author's books, but I've never read a book by this author, even though I keep purchasing them because I am infatuated with Michael Crichton. It's hilarious. Everybody has their thing. My thing is apparently Michael Crichton books that I buy because I think they sound phenomenal, and I know he's an amazing writer, and his books adapt very well to film. And I have a whole stack right over here. I've never read a book by Michael Crichton. This year, I'm going to change that. 2022. One of my 22 books to read. Dragon Teeth by Michael Crichton. This book is about rival paleontologists during the fossil wars, and they have like an apprentice who works for one of them, writes about the ongoing saga, the turmoil between these paleontologists and the terrible things that they get up to sabotage one another, etc. It sounds like a great book. The guy at the bookstore was infatuated with this book, and just the way he described it made me just want to read it. So I had to get it because he was just absolutely adamant that this would be an amazing book and I would absolutely love it. And he clearly read it and adored it. So anytime you get a glowing review like that, by someone who works at a bookstore who also reads and can like direct you to other things based on what you've read that you might like, you kind of have to pick them up. You got to take their word for it. So that's why I've always wanted to work at a bookstore, just so I can like navigate people to books that I think they'd like. But yeah, so hopefully this year 2022 is the year I read a Michael Crichton book. Fingers crossed. Next on the list is Normal People by Sally Rooney. I've heard great things about Sally Rooney and her writing, and Normal People sounds very interesting. It does get mixed reviews, so I'm hoping I'm on the review end of people who liked this book, but I guess time will tell. It's apparently one of her best novels. People just rave about it, and I don't know too much about it, so I'm just gonna stay. I got it at a local book sale for like $4, so I'm gonna stay not knowing too much about it and pick it up and see where I fall in the whether I like it or hate it category. She does have another book coming out this year that I'm interested in. The premise sounds great, but I have to read at least one of hers first before I can justify purchasing more of her books. Next up is an author who I have read before. Ah, so good. Anxious People by Frederick Bachman is up there. It was great when I read it. I think I read it in 2020. And I lent it to Bookshelf Bunny Kim, and she read it also and also thoroughly enjoyed it. The twist was I did not see it coming. I wondered how I didn't pick up on that the whole book. But yeah, read it and see. You'll understand what I'm talking about. And also the Everyday Home, The Road Gets Longer little novella in like less than 100 pages. How he can get you right to just bawl your eyes out is a phenomenal feat. And what a book. Talking about dementia and families dealing with dementia. And so if you have not picked up that novella, pick it up. But I'm going to read another book by him, and it's going to be A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Bachman. It's about an old grumpy man who maybe just wants to be left alone until a young child moves in next door, and maybe it sounds like makes him warm up to life. And I'm excited to read this and just see where I fall. I love the grumpy turned softy idea of this book, and we'll see if that's what it is. That's the vibes I'm getting, but we'll see if that's what actually happens. Just love the writing style of Frederick Bachman, so I'm very excited to read this one. Next up on the list is Catherine Center, Things You Save in a Fire. I have heard nothing but good things about this book, and it's about a lady who is fighting in, I think maybe in Detroit or Chicago, I can't remember, to be, or no, maybe not, Boston, where she is in line fighting to be the next chief of this fire station. And as a female, that's quite the feat. And I'm not sure what all entails from this, but it sounds like there's some hardships and some struggle and some overcoming adversities, and I'm excited to read this and see what it's all about. I've heard nothing but great things about this book, and I just love this cover. Is great. Is that not amazing? It's kind of like got the blue with the blue ladder and the flowers all down here, but they're like the color of fire, so it's like, yeah, it's floral, but like fire colored floral. It's really cool. So yeah, excited to pick this one up. This one I got last Christmas from my in-laws, so making my way through the stacks. Next up is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I know this is going to be dark, and it does have, I look up trigger warnings for this book, you guys. I don't even know what it all is. Trigger warnings don't really affect me, so I don't talk about them too much, but I know this deals with suicide and death, so forewarned, look up trigger warnings if you are affected by any of that kind of stuff before you read it. But I'm very excited to get into this and see where I fall on the spectrum. I'm not going to talk too much about it because everybody talks about it on YouTube, because it's been read a lot, and I am late to the game, but going to get it done. And the final big book I have, before we get on to the little graphic novels and manga that I have, is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. It's about two sisters who are identical, and they are African American, but they are very fair-skinned. And so something happens, and they kind of have a falling out, and the one sister stays living in her southern hometown, raising her daughter, and the other sister is living somewhere else with her husband and is white passing, and her husband doesn't know about her background, and the sisters have to come back together for some reason, for something that's related to the daughters. So we'll see where that goes. That's all I know about this one. That's all I really want to know, and I'm excited to get into this one. I'm actually picking this one up right away because it sounds really good. So that one will be on my list to read probably, if not right after Kings of the Wild, but like in February. So watch for my February TBR. I bet you that one will be on it. Last stack. Here we go. One moment, please. Here we go. The last 5 books on my 2022 22 books to read list. It's still in the plastic, so mine, The Crinkling Noise, is Saga Volume 2. It is a Romeo and Juliet sci-fi space opera-y, space retelling kind of situation. Very good. The graphics are phenomenal. Excited to read this one. Warning, there are it's very graphic, and they do draw a lot of sexy scenes, and it's like fully depicted. So if you're squeamish about that kind of stuff or don't really want to watch that, like reading it's fine, but visually you don't want to see it at the same time, maybe not the series for you. But if you're into space saga, space opera-y type stuff, this is fantastic. Highly recommend that series of graphic novel. Next up, Lumberjanes. I have this series. I have like the first 4. I'm very excited to read these because Stevenson writes, one of the designers on this, actually wrote her own graphic novel, Nimona. If you haven't read that, read it. It's fantastic. I love it. And she writes this one. It's about a camp and some strange things ensue, and it's just fun. It's not super in-depth, crazy like Saga. This one's just like more fun, lighthearted. Clearly excited to read this one. So that's on the list. Next up is I Hate Fairyland. It's a graphic novel about someone who goes to Fairyland, and it looks all fun and cute on the front, but keep an eye on this. That's the premise. It is fun, cute, interesting, but it's also very, very graphically gruesome. Planet blows up and his brains are flying out, so I'm very excited to see where I fall on this one. I think I will really like it because the premise sounds great. And once upon a time in Fairyland, there was a girl who hated the place and did messed up stuff like this. Pretty gross, right? So she gets put in Fairyland, doesn't like it. She's on a mission to destroy all parts of Fairyland. So I'm excited to read that one, just as a fun read. I haven't come across any of the other ones in the series, but hopefully I come across some more, because if I like that, I'm going to want to pick up the other ones. Next up is a graphic novel called Check Please. It is a gay romance set in a hockey setting, so all there to read this and see how this, I just have a feeling I'm just going to love it. So there's a guy on a team. I believe he is gay, and he makes pies as like a hobby, or he's a waitress as a hobby. I don't know. I'm just really excited. I love hockey, and this sounds like it'll check all the boxes of something I want to read. So very excited about that, and all the different representation. And another queer romance kind of book that I have, graphic novel, is Heartstopper. It's a male-male romance, just like the other one was, about 2 people who are unlikely companions and fall in love, and I'm just here for it. Just look at the cover. It's just, and I know there's like 4 of these now, so I'm very excited. I think it was an online graphic novel, and then they made it into a bound graphic novel, so I'm very excited to read this. And it's just like all like blues and greens, and so nice. I just love it. So I'm excited to read this and then potentially pick up the other ones. On that note, that is it. That's the books that I plan to read in 2022. 22 books to read in 2022. Obviously, I want to read more, but these are ones that are on my top priority list to get through this year. And yeah, let me know if you have any of these on your list. And if so, tell me in the comments down below. If you've read them, any of these, let me know which ones you loved and why, but do not tell me any spoilers, please. And I'll check in with you probably partway through the year to tell you how I'm doing on my 22 books in 2022 stack of lists. This is not the first time you'll be seeing this video. This video is being done all over BookTube, so scroll around and find some other booktubers who are also doing this video, and jump on the train if you want to make a video of the top 22 books you want to read in 2022. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe down below. As always, I appreciate all of your likes and all your subscribes, and I will see you soon with another video.